Hi everybody, my name is Angelica from the Math Magician Bookkeeping. I'm one of the students in Bryce's coaching program, and today I wanted to speak with you guys about self-confidence as a bookkeeper. So for myself, I wanted to talk about some of the issues that I've dealt with as far as my confidence goes. Now, right off the bat, I've struggled with self-confidence ever since I was a little bit younger, and as an adult, it's gotten better, but there are still things that I have low self-esteem about and things that I'm constantly working through. And that's one thing with confidence, is it's always a work in progress. But one thing specifically for me that I have struggled with since I've started my business is imposter syndrome. And this, if you don't know what imposter syndrome, it basically means that you are doing something, but you feel like an imposter while doing it. Like you feel like for instance, like I'm not an actual bookkeeper, like I'm a phony. And this is something I've struggled with pretty much since I started my business, and I think that stems from the fact that this is pretty much like my first ever business that I've pretty much started from the bottom. I mean, I tried the makeup artistry thing, and that certainly didn't go super well for me just because I probably didn't stick with it long enough. I had the capabilities to make it work, but I didn't have enough clients and didn't really know where to find them as easily, and so that sort of failed. And then starting over in with bookkeeping, I knew enough to start a bookkeeping business, but I didn't have, a accounting degree or 20 plus years of experience under my belt whenever I first started. And so I just kind of felt like, yeah, I'm a phony bookkeeper. And that's something that I still continue to struggle with, but it has gotten better. And so I want to talk a little bit about, let's not focus on the negative anymore. Let's talk about what actually helps build that confidence. Like I said, it's always going to be a work in progress. It definitely is for myself, but there are things that can help with that. Some of these things that I'm going to mention are going to be pretty generic to any person and also any profession. But one of the things that really makes me feel confident and like I'm put together is putting myself together. So most of the time whenever I'm working from home, I'm wearing sweatpants or a robe, or sometimes I'll wear like athleisure clothes, like yoga pants and like a tank top or something. But majority of the time, I'm pretty much like curled up in my robe with a blanket on and just, comfy. And there are times, obviously to get that work done, it's fine. But something that actually really helps me, like one thing that I do whenever I make these videos, if you haven't noticed, is I'll put my makeup on. I'll get a little more glammed up and dressed up and treat this almost as if I'm going to meet with one of my clients, or doing a public speaking forum. It's just one of those things that makes me feel more put together. It makes me feel more professional. And so something I'd suggest to you is, if especially you're working at home, is take a moment, take care of yourself a little bit, and put on some, it doesn't have to be like slacks and a dress or skirt or anything, but take a moment to kind of dress up like how you would to go meet up with a client, or how you would dress up sort of to go on a date or something like that, that makes you kind of feel, like how you'd feel whenever you usually feel your best and like the most confident. Like for me, it's whenever I'm going to go on a date with my husband and I'm excited about it and I'm going to dress myself up and make myself cute for him. And I like to do that sometimes when I'm just at the house. Sometimes it can be a little time consuming to do that, but if you have the time to do that, it does tend to psychologically make you feel a little more confident and put together, and like you're a professional and you got this. And so that's a silly thing that helps me. Another thing regarding that is getting organized. So I don't have a specific office living in a tiny home, but I usually try to keep my area organized, keep my stuff organized, even as simple as going through my emails and organizing my emails to, all the clients that I have. I always put them in the client folder of what I have. Keeping my bookkeeping stuff organized, having tasks, having this and that. Those things are generally things that I feel like every business should have, And I guess that's kind of why it makes me feel more confident, is I feel like, oh, if I'm doing this, then that makes me more of a legitimate business, because I know if I go into, an accounting firm that's a legitimate accounting firm, they're going to pretty much have the same systems in place. And so with me having those same systems in place, it makes me feel more legitimate and like this is an actual business and not just some kind of hobby that I have. But yeah, I know it kind of sounds silly, but those visual things or those tasks can really help with your confidence, at least for me, of not feeling like a phony. Another thing is realizing that there is always a person for someone. I actually just got done binge watching a reality dating TV show on Netflix, and some of the people that got together in this dating show, you're thinking like, wow, I don't really understand how this dynamic works, but some of them do work, because even if that's not typically the type of person you would go for, that someone else is going to want that person. Someone that you may think is super boring, someone else may be like, oh man, they're just so much fun. And that's the same thing when it comes to having relationships with your clients. Obviously not dating. I mean, if you're about that life, then cool, but not for me. But I mean, having the relationship with like a potential client. Some people are just going to want to work with you solely because they like you. They like the way that you maybe talk about things. They just, like for me, with joining Bryce's program, I wanted to join Bryce because I liked the way that he was. He's very like straight and to the point, and I really appreciate that in someone. And as opposed to, other programs out there, I just really preferred the way that he laid things out, his work ethic on things, and that really stuck with me. And so I know, like right now, I have a potential client that I have had to reschedule so many meetings for, and I feel terrible. Like I was supposed to have a meeting with him earlier this week, and then I got COVID and couldn't meet with him. But we've been pretty much rescheduling meetings for me to go meet with him for like 2 weeks now, and it's been crazy. Throughout all of this, I'm like, he's not gonna work with me because I've been so like flaky. But he is still, and also I have no idea anything about Sage, which is the accounting software they use, and I've told them this, and like, I don't know, man, I don't know if it's worth it. They're like, we're willing to pay you to learn Sage, we're willing to pay you extra time to do that, we're willing to pay you this and that and da-da-da-da-da. And I realized it's because they actually like me. They actually like there's something about me that they specifically like. I don't know what it is, but there is something that they are drawn to, wanting to work with me specifically, and it's really endearing. Sometimes, like I said, I don't understand it whenever it feels like people have so many other options, but it is very nice though to think that someone is willing to work with you even through all these issues, even though I don't have perfect knowledge of this and that. They're typically like kind of gambling with me being able to figure everything out, but the fact that they have faith in me and be able to do it is really cool. So there will be someone out there that wants to work with you specifically because they like you. I mean, there's some people that we watch on Twitch and YouTube, and we follow them and subscribe to their channel and support them because we like them. We like their personality. We like certain things about them. And so, that's why there's so many different channels and people that you can turn to, influencers and stuff that you may be like, man, I don't understand how anyone could follow that person, but to someone else it makes total sense. So just realize that as well for you, that someone is going to want to work with you solely just because they like who you are. So another thing that is super helpful is asking for reviews from clients. And if you don't have clients yet, if you're just starting out, maybe ask for a performance review from your employer. Ask for a review from your coworkers. Basically, these items are going to kind of give you some feedback, and even though you may feel a little scared to do it, like, oh God, I'm scared of what they're going to say about me, more than not, more times out of not, they're going to actually say something wonderful about you. There may be a few things that are thrown in there on the survey or that feedback that are honest criticisms. And if that's the case, then please do not get offended, because those criticisms are actually going to help you get better and then be like the ultimate business owner. Because if you are humble enough to take that criticism or that feedback and be able to turn it into a superpower, then you're going to be on top forever and always, and you're going to have clients that want to work with you because you're able to be humble enough to, you know, like if someone said they're great but their communication lacks, then you can take that and go, okay, now I know what my client expects of me. I'm going to work really hard to be better about communication, and not for just this client, but for every client, and so on and so forth. So don't get offended whenever someone gives you that feedback, but just focus on the actual good things that they have to say about you. You know, I see it so many times, like I mentioned, on YouTube comments or Google reviews or whatever. There's so, you know, Amazon reviews, whatever. There can be like so many different reviews, good or bad. And 9 times out of 10, the bad reviews are just silly. Like, I've seen so many reviews for Amazon products that are just outrageously silly that I'm like, that's a you problem, not the product problem. But, like I said, it's more than likely that person's problem more than your problem. But still try to take that feedback to heart if it actually makes sense as a criticism. If someone's just like, oh, I don't like the way that they talk, then yeah, that's really stupid, and you can't really change the way that you sound or speak, you know. But those are some really good things that I would suggest. I know with Bryce, he has a resource for this, for asking your clients to give a testimonial. He actually has a script, which is really nice, because it kind of brings up the points and lets you kind of look into the mind of your client to see what things that you have actually helped them with. And then knowing that will add to your confidence of knowing like, hey, I'm actually like helping this person more than I ever realized, and I do have value. Another thing that I've also used in the past is like SurveyMonkey, or there's other types of surveys out there that you can send to your clients and just have them answer honestly and kind of almost rate you. But like I said, do not get offended about this. Just try to see it from their viewpoint and as a moment to better yourself if some feedback does come back that may not be as ideal as you were hoping. But I guarantee you more people are going to want to speak highly of you. There's probably a reason they're still working with you, right? If they didn't like you, then they wouldn't work with you anymore. Another thing that has really, really, really helped me is ever since I joined Bryce's program, he talks about reaching out to referral partners. And I've talked about it in other videos, but referral partners are basically, they could be another accounting professional, they could be a business coach. They're basically just a resource that you can use to refer people to, and they can refer people your way as well. So it's kind of like a, if I scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of relationship situation. And so I had, when I first joined back in like June or something, I had reached out to a bunch of these potential referral partners on LinkedIn and set up several meetings. I'm talking like 3 or 4 meetings a week with referral partners or potential referral partners. And some of them I had a great enough relationship where I felt like, oh, I want to refer people to them. And some of them there wasn't that great of a connection there, or it kind of just felt like, oh, they want more out of me than I'm willing to give. Like they were trying to sell me something or something. But the best thing that came from that though was the more meetings that I had with those people, the more repetition happened, and the more I was able to talk about what I do in my business and how I'm able to help people. And that kind of reinforced in my mind, like the more I said it out loud, the more I was like, yeah, I do got this. Yeah, I am a bookkeeper. Yeah, I can help with accounts payable. Yeah, I can do their receivables. I've helped businesses do this. I've helped businesses do that. Granted, I wasn't like, oh, I'm so cool, but it made me feel like, you know, I'm not a phony bookkeeper. I'm actually a bookkeeper and I've got this in the bag. And I would get compliments all the time of how I conducted myself, professionally. And there's a lot of times where I feel like, oh, I'm not a super professional person, but people will tell me like, oh, you're a bright young woman, and like, that's great, thank you so much. But having those meetings before you actually have meetings with clients is super helpful. And then whenever you have your meetings with clients, the more you repeat certain things, like I said, it's going to just confirm it in your head and reiterate that you've got this and you shouldn't doubt yourself. Along with having those meetings, record any consultation you have, even if it's with a referral partner. Record pretty much any meeting that you have and then play it back. Watch yourself. Analyze yourself and make give yourself honest feedback as well. And kind of figure out like what happened. Like if something went good, what did you say that ended with that client wanting to work with you? If they didn't want to work with you, what happened? Where did the client hesitate that you can actually analyze and review that? And with Bryce's program, it's really nice because whenever we do have these items, we can record our phone calls, meetings, what have you, and send them to Bryce, and he will do an honest assessment of it and tell us, what worked, what didn't work. And again, do not get offended if someone does that, but it's really nice having that accountability partner and kind of someone else's eyes watching that is, running a very successful business themselves, and to be able to go, okay, well, this is what you're doing and that's wonderful, but maybe you needed to ask a little bit more questions. Maybe you were talking too much and you didn't give your client enough time to talk. So it's really nice to be able to look back and do that and critique yourself and then actually have someone kind of give you that feedback as well. It's similar to having your clients give you that feedback, but with this, it's more of a better way to understand how to actually close the sale and to not get offended. Another thing leading up to that, do not be discouraged whenever people say no. Sometimes it can be really difficult, especially when you're starting out and you almost feel desperate to get a client. But something that Bryce tells us all the time is he's like, do you need a client? Do you need the client more than the client needs you? And I remember thinking like, no, I need the client more than they probably need me. Like, I need that money. I need someone to work with me. And then he makes you kind of realize, like, actually the client needs you probably more than you need them, because they don't have their finances together and they're probably racking their brain on how to budget and how to do all these other things. And so they actually need you more than you need them. And so whenever you go into that mindset, you realize if someone says no, then it probably just wasn't a good fit. I know there's been a few times where I've been like, man, I really dodged a bullet with that one, because maybe they hesitated whenever I told them the price and they didn't want to work with me. And if that's the case, then, not necessarily good riddance, but maybe they were going to be a cheapskate. They could have probably given me issues every month whenever I asked them to pay the bill. Maybe they hesitated when I told them my, lack of experience or lack of 20 years of experience or whatever. And they kind of faltered at that. Maybe they wanted someone that did this or that. If they would have worked with me and I wasn't able to live up to their expectations, then it would have just been a very stressful situation. So having someone say no to you is not the end of the world. And like I said, I know that can sound like a lot when you're first starting out because you feel desperate enough to get that client. But realize that just because someone says yes to you does not mean that it's going to be a perfect situation. And especially if they aren't the right fit for you. You have to be just as picky as your client or your potential client is. Another thing that really helps your confidence is focus on what your biggest business goal is. Sometimes when I'm lacking confidence or motivation, I sit back and think about why I started my business and what I want to achieve out of it. For a lot of people, that could be, financial freedom. It could be independence. It could be a way to travel, to retire themselves eventually, to retire one of their family members. For me, it's somewhat all of the above. I remember wanting to start my own bookkeeping business for when I really enjoyed it, but I've always had that like entrepreneurial spirit where I've always been pretty independent and wanted to work for myself as opposed to someone else. I've always worked for someone else in my career path, and so being able to do something on my own where I just have to answer myself or to my clients has been really nice. And then I knew building our tiny home that eventually we wanted to travel, and so being able to have a job that's flexible enough to do that, and then to also have financial freedom. And yes, the money and the confidence can go hand in hand because the more that you close, the more your confidence goes up. But I guess being able to realize like, hey, I got this on my own, and no matter what happens, I'm going to find growth, and I'm going to learn from this experience, and my confidence is going to continue to go up because I realize that I've got this. So those are kind of some of the suggestions I would make to be able to have more confidence as a bookkeeper. Like I said, it's always a work in progress. It's something that I struggle with occasionally. I am not a super confident person right off the bat, but there are moments where I can have confidence, and there are moments where I feel like, man, I do not know what I am doing at all, and that imposter syndrome kicks back in. And then there's times when you're reminded, like, why did I ever feel like that? Like, literally this last weekend, I was chatting with one of my clients that I had received from one of my subcontracting jobs. And for 6 months now, she's been dealing with this issue of where her QuickBooks desktop, she had to transfer to QuickBooks Online. And ever since she transferred to QuickBooks Online 6 months ago, her reports do not match with the information that is in QuickBooks Desktop. So the products and services that she needed to show for her inventory reports in QuickBooks Online were not matching what was in Desktop, which has been, kind of the accurate version. And she's like, I have met with so many different bookkeepers within this subcontracting company, and they cannot figure it out. I can't figure it out. It's been a struggle for 6 months. And within like a few hours, I was able to look through those reports and be able to find the discrepancies and realize that in QuickBooks Online, some of the products and services that were in Desktop had actually been set to inactive in QuickBooks Online. And once they were set back to active, then they actually showed up, and she was able to get the accurate reporting. And she was just like, I cannot believe out of 6 months, you were the only person that could figure that out. And I'm thinking like, it's just about pretty much like solving a puzzle, like just taking the time and doing it. I don't think it's super special of me to do that, but she just could not stop freaking out about, oh my God, you helped me so much. And it was really cool to feel like, man, I made this person's day. I made, this whole struggle worth it for them, and kind of helped ease their mind. And it's really cool to feel like you've done something, like you've been able to help someone. And that's where I was talking about, like with the feedback of asking your clients how you're doing will kind of give you that confidence whenever they do tell you like, yes, you have helped me budget. You've helped me with not having to spend so much time, da-da-da-da-da. And so those things can really help you with your confidence. And I will say, ever since I joined Bryce's coaching program, like if you ask Bryce, or I'm sure he could probably upload it one of these days, but in our initial call where I was asking to see if I would be a good fit to joining the program, pretty much the majority of it, you could just tell I had such low self-confidence as a bookkeeper, and that I just felt like, well, I don't understand why people would charge more than, $40 an hour for me as a bookkeeper, because I'm just a lowly little bookkeeper. No one's ever going to want to spend more than, $1,000 on me. Like $1,000 a month seems like a ridiculous number to charge for someone. And I'm sitting there going, there is no way anyone's going to want to spend $1,000 a month to work with me. And here I am a few months later, and people have given me $2,500 for a cleanup or whatever. And it's crazy to think that happened. And it's all because I changed kind of my perspective and took the advice that Bryce had given us and kind of went with it. And having that accountability partner that can build up your confidence, I mean, every week, 2 times a week in our program, we will sit down and discuss what our wins are for the week. And they don't even have to be bookkeeping related. It could be like my son graduated high school or whatever, but something good that has happened those 2, you know, throughout your week. You know, even if you didn't land a client or anything, let's say you sent out 100 messages and 2 people responded, that's a win. And he really makes you feel like whatever you are doing, whatever you're trying, it is leading to that growth and that success no matter what you do. But if you're interested in actually joining the program, I'd highly suggest it. It has worked wonders for me with my confidence and for others as well. And you can always click the link in the description or in the comment section below to book a call with Bryce to see if you'd be a good fit as well. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, because there's more videos like this on this channel. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, bye!